A community is coming together tonight to talk about a controversial prom photo, and Baraboo's police chief talks about that photo this afternoon only on News 3. Plus, thousands of firefighters are working long hours trying to get control of a deadly wildfire burning in Northern California. We'll have an update on the situation out west right now at noon.
This is News 3 at noon.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Josh Breiter. Mark is on assignment this afternoon. Let's first head to the Weather Center where meteorologist Chris Reese has a look at that first alert forecast, and kind of a cloudy and chilly Monday out there, Chris.
It is, but it's a dry Monday, and I think a lot of us will take that, especially after we've had just one of those patterns that's brought system after system our way. Let's look outside right now. You do see the clouds. There's some filtered sunshine coming in, though. Temperatures have finally made it to 30 degrees after being stuck in the 20s pretty much all morning long. Some of us still are in the 20s. Waukesha at 28, Lone Rock also at 28. The Dells are at 29 right now, but I do think all of us will make it into the 30s. And Janesville, warmer right now at 34 degrees. That's where they're seeing those winds come out of the south and southwest, but there's a change in the wind direction that you'll notice right in here where they kind of take on more of a north and westerly track. That is a cold front moving through that brought some light snow showers and flurries to our north earlier today. There's a chance that some of that makes its way on south, but for the most part that should stay north of us. Your forecast first, we'll see a mix of the sun and clouds through about 5 o'clock, and then clearing skies overnight with lows falling into the 20s.
Lots of eyes on that Thanksgiving travel forecast, Chris.
And there are, and I'm going to be breaking down what we can expect during Thanksgiving travel coming up here in just a bit.
All right, we'll see you in just a little bit. Conversations will continue tonight concerning a controversial prom photo involving Baraboo High School students. Some think the students are making a Nazi salute in the photo. It went viral when it resurfaced on the internet earlier this month. City education and religious leaders will be at tonight's meeting. Baraboo's police chief will also be there. He talked with us exclusively on News 3 this morning, saying he really hopes people will take time to connect.
Anytime people come together to talk, there's hope. Yeah. I'm kind of old school. I'm not a big fan of social media. I don't have any of those accounts. I would prefer to talk to you one-on-one. I would prefer to look you in the eyes and have a conversation, because now we have the ability to not only interact, but connect.
Tonight's meeting is one of 3 planned. It starts at 6 o'clock at the high school. There will not be a recount in the race for Wisconsin's Attorney General. Republican Attorney General Brad Schimel announced his decision this morning. Less than 1 percentage point separated him and his challenger, Democrat Josh Kaul. Under state law, the margin of defeat must be within 1 percentage point for a candidate to seek a recount. More than 17,000 votes separated Kaul and Schimel. Schimel would have been responsible to cover the cost of a recount. 3 Democrats filed a lawsuit today saying acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker's appointment is unconstitutional. The move comes after the president granted Whitaker full authority over Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian collusion in the 2016 presidential election. Mo Leahy reports from the White House.
President Trump has given acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker full authority over special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation.
It's going to be up to him. I really believe he's going to do what's right.
But you won't overrule him if he decides to curtail.
I would not get involved.
Democrats have called on Whitaker to recuse himself from overseeing the investigation, pointing to comments Whitaker has made in the past criticizing Mueller's probe.
He was chosen for the purpose of interfering with the Mueller investigation.
Democrats warn they will be watching.
He needs to know that if he takes any action to curb what Mr. Mueller does, we're going to find out about it. We're going to expose it.
Special counsel Robert Mueller has agreed to submit written questions to President Trump, and the president is expected to submit his answers this week. But the president has been advised not to answer any questions about obstruction of justice.
And nothing, written or in person, on obstruction.
I would say probably. Probably. I mean, I can change my mind, but probably. I think we've wasted enough time on this witch hunt.
Mr. Mueller does have the power to subpoena the president to answer those questions, but acting Attorney General Whitaker would have to sign off on the subpoena. Mo Leahy, WISC News 3.
President Trump says he was unaware of Whitaker's criticisms of the Mueller probe before he appointed him to the acting Attorney General position. Right now, firefighters continue to make progress against a wildfire in Northern California. Close to 80 people have died so far as a result of the Camp Fire. More than 1,000 others are still missing. The fire began on November 8th near the small city of Paradise, which was all but destroyed. Luckily, rain is in the forecast for that region. Firefighters say this will help them further get the fire under control, but say it will complicate efforts for the crews searching for human remains. The National Weather Service also fears the rain could cause mud and rock slides. Leaders at UW-Madison say they're continuing efforts to create a safe, supportive environment. This after investigating sexual assault allegations against a former professor. A university spokeswoman confirms that investigation had already started when Harvey Jacobs retired back in May. Jacobs is accused of inappropriately touching, staring at, and commenting on staff and students. UW's findings substantiate some of the claims against him, and he received no settlement when he chose to retire. Jacobs worked in the Department of Planning and Landscape Architecture. The chair of that department released a statement saying in part that experience has been a wake-up call for our department. Life sciences company Eurofins Scientific plans to build a large plant and office space in Madison. The plant would cost around $35 million and is expected to employ around 500 people. Eurofins is new to Madison, but its employees aren't. The company bought Covance Food Solutions in August. Covance is one of Madison's largest employer. There's more to come on News 3 at noon. Let's see what Howard's working on in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Today we're whipping up some biscuits that are super easy and perfect for our Thanksgiving Day lineup. Perfect. With Thanksgiving right around the corner, we're all looking for quick and easy ideas to make this year's feast really stand out. And one way to do that is with our brand new buttery Pilgrim biscuits that go together like this. We begin by mixing some biscuit and baking mix with some sour cream and a bit of club soda. To give these lots of flavor, we add in some cut chives, a little chopped garlic, and a pinch of salt. After mixing this gently, we roll the dough into golf ball size pieces and place them in a cake pan. We brush them with some melted butter and pop them in the oven. When they come out of the oven, a little more butter goes on top and they're done. Just imagine passing a platter of these around your holiday table as everyone grabs their very own fresh from the oven biscuit. So don't dilly-dally. After the news, go online and get the recipe for what we call buttery pilgrim biscuits. I know your gang will be thankful that you did. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a buttery, delicious way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
Now is the time to start thinking about your plant and garden questions. Plus, there's a chance for some snow flurries today. Chris Reese is tracking it all next in his First Alert forecast. Keep watching News 3 at noon. Welcome back to News 3 at noon. At the noon hour, the Dow and NASDAQ both down on the day so far. Time now to check in with Q106 Farm Director Pam Yankee. Pam, do you have all those groceries in line for later this week?
Boy, I'll tell you, Josh, it's not just about the groceries. It's about the crazy questions my friends at the U.S. Department of Agriculture Turkey Hotline are fielding. Marianne Gravely's one of the gals that I'm doing some radio stories with, and she said they've been there for almost 35 years answering questions that consumers have about getting ready for the big feast. And the questions they're answering today are basically things like, is the turkey that I got from my employer last Christmas still good in the freezer for this Thanksgiving? And the answer is yes. Marianne says if you've got that turkey that you've been kind of hanging on to for the past couple of months, no problem, so long as it stayed frozen. She said turkeys can go at least a year, maybe even a little bit over a year if you want to tap into those resources for Thursday. But remember, you got to get that rascal out of the freezer sooner as opposed to later, because it takes quite a while for those sizable birds to thaw out safely. So like I said, Turkey Hotline already busy. Curious about that number? It's 888-MP Hotline. 888-MP Hotline, if you want to tap into it now. Boy, you saw that the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down more than 400 points today. Listen, I have got nothing but lousy numbers on my commodities, too. So apparently what happened over the weekend, Vice President Pence made some comments during a speaking engagement that specifically targeted China. China last week gave us a list of 124 different concessions, I guess you'd say, that they'd take a look at when it comes to trying to keep the United States a little bit happier with the tariff situation. So last week we finished thinking that things were looking halfway decent with our G20 talks at the end of the month and into December with China specifically in mind. Now that occurred over the weekend, and I'll tell you, our corn, our soybeans, our wheat, everything is lower on the midday, and dairy is feeling the kick as well. Today in Chicago, we're double digits down on our fluid milk contracts, and they've even fallen more since I sent those numbers over to the studios. Still have to get all the way out to July of 2019 before we're even close to $16 milk in Chicago. And the product market got hit today as well. Barrel cheese down 6 1/4 at 129 3/4. 40-pound block cheese down another 4 1/4 at 141. Josh, the only good news I've got for the markets today, butter went up 5 1/2 at 233 a pound. And again, it goes back to what you started our conversation with. A lot of people getting that grocery list pulled together, and I'm hoping that there's a whole lot of dairy products, including butter, that's on that list for the Thanksgiving feast and into the holiday entertaining. If we can get that consumption popping a little bit, hopefully those stories like the China situation will be offset just a little bit as far as our dairy producers are concerned.
You know, Pam, when it comes to Thanksgiving dinner, I always leave that to Mom and Grandma, and I just show up with the booze, so.
That's the way to celebrate, Josh. Good boy. Keep your priorities straight, my man.
You bet. All right, Pam, thanks so much.
See you later. Yep.
Obviously, Chris, a lot of people paid attention to that Thanksgiving travel forecast, and it's looking pretty good here in Wisconsin.
It is looking pretty good, and I just kind of laughed because it's opposite for me. I'm doing the cooking, and then my mom said, when I get there, I'll buy some wine or something.
I already bought some wine over the weekend. I'm like, I got it.
Well, it's going to be a good forecast, of course, for the travel. We've been watching that. Oddly enough, it's not that bad of a forecast out there right now. 30 degrees is the temperature, and we have been watching those temperatures in the 20s and 30s just about all morning long. Now, here we are in the afternoon, finally at 30 degrees right here in Madison. Some of our friends are still, though, in the 20s, so take it or leave it. It is Mother Nature, and we do have some of those cooler temperatures, but it could be worse. So as we work our way up to parts of Minnesota, it's 19 degrees right now in Brainerd, and it's going to stay in the teens likely for our friends up north all day long, especially with the cloud cover that they still have in play. And here's that cloud cover for us right now, along with some of the light flurries that really kind of fizzled out as they ran into that drier air that we have in play. But we're going to keep a lot of the cloud cover around. This is actually associated with a cold front that is gradually pushing its way down towards the south and east. But I do think we get in on some more sunshine eventually. We just have to get through this cold air first. As we take you, or not cold air, but cloudy skies first. As we work our way through tonight, you'll see the cloudiness clear on out. Temperatures will fall into the lower 20s at that point. Then throughout tomorrow, we'll try to make it into the 30s, but another reinforcing shot of cooler air will come in. That'll bring a chance for clouds and some flurries. Then we get more sunshine and clear skies after that, headed into your Wednesday. And of course, that's the big travel day. And here's how the setup will look for most of the country. That colder air will be moving towards the interior northeast. But for the most part, we're going to be mild and in between the jet stream. So that will keep most of the country dry. Beyond Thanksgiving, though, it is chillier air that works its way on in, and it's going to settle in play, and that's going to touch off an active pattern as we begin to end the month. So here we are leading up to Thanksgiving. You see we're quiet. Just as we get to the weekend after Thanksgiving, that is when we'll have more storm systems developing across the country. By the Sunday after Thanksgiving, we could see a system bringing rain and snow to the nation's midsection, and eventually, potentially, for us in the upper Midwest as well, before that heads off to the eastern half of the country. But when you have an active pattern like this, it becomes very prevalent that we have chances to be above normal in the precipitation pattern. And that's going to be not just the next 6 to 10 days, but the next 8 to 14 days as well. Do have chances of above normal precipitation. But temperature-wise, we will kind of go on a little bit of a roller coaster ride, but staying below average as a whole. I do think we'll see a couple of days above average there, but that's just one or two. The next true rain chances come back to the picture on Friday and Saturday. followed up with snow chances Sunday through Tuesday of next week.
Really lucking out with that forecast this week.
Yeah, so going to wherever you're going, I can't talk today, but traveling to your destination for Thanksgiving should actually be better than traveling home. I think traveling home is where we could run into some issues across the country.
Nah, we'll worry about that later.
Let's eat.
Let's do it.
Let's
And
do
drink
that first.
Still to come on News 3 at noon. Now is the time to call us with your plant and garden questions. The number is 270-9933. Linda with the Bruce Company joins us in studio after the break. Stay with us. And welcome back at noon. Linda with the Bruce Company is here today. And remember, be sure to call in. We've only got one caller so far, but we got that number up on the bottom of your screen, 270-9933. Linda, thanks for coming in.
Good to see you. Yeah, I did bring a few things along that are sort of part of the season. You know, amaryllis, this is a great time to get those started. That's that on the far right with the big red flower. That will get probably 2-3 feet. It's sort of a cool plant to buy.
Oh, wow.
Because especially if you have kids, you visibly get to watch this and increase in size, and then these huge flowers at the top, and the whole aroma of the rosemary is filling the room here. And that's this little cone-shaped plant that has been sheared into a shape. If you use this as a house plant during the winter, don't let it dry out, but you can actually use that when for your Thanksgiving dinner.
I know this is always kind of a tough time of year because people are always wondering what still can grow, what can you do inside, how do you keep up with it?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you didn't clean things up this fall, you have sort of a reprieve. So if you have some perennials and things to cut back, you can still do that. If you have bulbs that you haven't gotten in the ground, do that as soon as possible because there's maybe a little bit of frost, but you can get through.
All right, and I think we do have a couple callers now. Remember, 270-9933. We're going to begin with Michelle in Middleton talking about fall fertilizer. Michelle, what's your question?
Oh, good afternoon. I put on fall fertilizer, but it also had some weed control in it, and I know I hit some of my perennial plants. Do I have anything to worry about come spring, or will they come back
Well,
no issues.
If the perennials were in good shape, when did you do this, Michelle? How long ago?
2-3 weeks ago, maybe?
2-3 weeks ago. All right, because that granular material will kill other plants like perennials if it is on a nice green leaf. If they had sort of been declining, then you probably don't have much of a problem.
Oh, I had already cut back all of that before, so it was down to the ground.
Okay, then you're probably all right. It's best not to have that happen, though. You're much better off avoiding perennials or anything that you want desirable, because those same plants can be killed by that material.
All right, thanks, Michelle. We're next going to go to Bill in Janesville talking about gnats and plants. Hey, Bill.
Hi, yeah, I have a silver pothos and about 20 other house plants besides cacti and succulents, and I have this never-ending gnat problem.
Okay, well, there's a couple of things that you can do. First of all, just try letting everything get quite dry, because gnats need a certain amount of moisture in that soil for them to continue their life cycle. That may break the cycle, or you could resort to putting an insecticidal soap on the roots, but some plants don't like that, so make sure you read the label carefully before you do that step. Try just letting things get quite dry first.
All right, thanks, Bill. Next, we've got Judy in Madison. Judy, what's your question?
Hello?
You there, Judy?
Yes.
What's your question, Judy?
Hi, my question is about orchids. Yes. My question is about orchids.
Okay. Do you know what kind of orchid you have by any chance?
I'm not quite sure of the kind of orchids, but what I'm wondering is... No, I'm sorry, I don't.
All right. Well, I will say that the most common orchid that people are growing these days is Phalaenopsis. So if you're trying to
no, they're common orchids, but what I'm wondering is I have them all in small pots. I'm wondering if I can put them in one big clay pot.
Yes, you can do that and use the same medium that the plants are currently growing in when you combine them. They can all be included in one big large pot. That'll work just fine.
All right, and that's our time right now. If you're still on there, Linda will answer them over at the phone desk. For now, we're going to send it over to Chris for a final check of the forecast. Chris?
That's right. We still have a lot of the cloud cover out there right now, but I do think we will see some added sunshine as we go through the week, particularly Tuesday, Wednesday, and even your Thanksgiving Thursday. The clouds will be on the increase again Friday into Saturday. That's rain chances ahead of a cold front that could be followed up with chances for rain and snow towards December.
All right, Chris, thank you, and thanks for joining us. Mark and Susan are back for Live at 4.
Making plans that are weather dependent? Get an accurate 12-hour, even a 10-day forecast. Download the Channel 3000 First Alert Weather app and start planning.